This week's art activity is inspired by all-star athletes and sports adventures. You can make a soccer ball, a baseball, or a basketball. You can choose which one you would like to make, or you can make all of them. Here are some of the materials you might need for this lesson. I also will be using paint and markers. Remember, please just use what you have, and I will give you different options as to what you can use for your projects. We are going to start by making a baseball, probably the easiest of the three. For this lesson, our main shape is a circle. So we need to either find a plate we could use as a circle, or we could find a plate to trace as a circle onto a white or colored piece of paper. I suggest using a pencil. I'm using a Sharpie so you can see it better. When you are cutting, make sure the scissor stays away from you and you turn the paper as you cut. Let's look at the baseball. It has the color white, red, and some writing on the baseball. I noticed that the red is thread, keeping the leather of the baseball together. Now that I have my circle, I'm going to start by making my baseball. I need a red marker or crayon. I'm going to start by making the letter U at the top, starting at the top of the circle and going across the circle with the letter U. I'm going to trace one more time so the line is nice and thick. I flip it upside down, and then I'm going to make another letter U, making sure they do not touch. This is the thread of the baseball. So now I'm going to use the letter V to create the little threads that hold the baseball together. The V is separated by my U line, and I repeat like a pattern all the way around my letter U. I'm making sure that my lines are the same size and the same space apart. Now I'm going to just add some extra details to really make it look like a baseball. So I'm going to get a black Sharpie, you can use a marker or a pen, and I'm going to trace that U one more time on top of the red line and the other one as well. Now at the end of each V, I'm going to put a dot, and I'm going to repeat that all the way around. This makes it look like the thread is going into the baseball. It really gives it a three-dimensional look and makes it look real. And for the finishing touch, I'm gonna sign my artwork like a baseball player would sign his baseball. Next, we are going to make a basketball. I used a paper plate for my basketball. You can also use a white piece of paper and a plate that you can trace into a circle and cut out your circle for your basketball. The reason why I use this plate is because it has a basketball-like texture, which we are going to create in our artwork today. But first, we're going to make the lines for the basketball. I am going to separate my circle in half with a vertical line going all the way up and all the way down. I am going to do the same thing but horizontal to my circle. Now I have 4 sections in my circle. And lastly, I'm going to make a half circle in each section. On the top, my U, and on the bottom, my upside down U. It's okay if it doesn't come out perfect. Mine didn't come out perfect, but I can definitely go over those lines a little bit darker so I can make sure that I can see it better when I start to add my color. Now that I have very thick lines, I can count the different sections of my basketball, and it looks like I have 8 different sections to add my texture. I'm going to use a Q-tip to mix colors. You can also use a paintbrush or even your finger. We are going to make the color orange since a basketball is orange. You could also use an orange marker or crayon if you do not have any paint. You do not have to make orange, but an artist knows how to mix their colors just in case they don't have orange. Yellow plus red equals orange. Let's see how close I can get my yellow and red to mix to be like the orange on the left. Looks pretty good. What do you guys think? Texture is something that you see and you can feel. A texture of a basketball is like many small little dots. Now, before we begin, we're going to look at the artist George Seurat because he uses dots in his artwork to create beautiful masterpieces. Using dots in your artwork is called pointillism. Can you believe this painting was made out of tiny dots? So cool! Here's another famous painting by George Seurat called Sunday Afternoon, created with pointillism. You can use your paint, markers, crayons, color pencils, or whatever you have on hand to make your orange dots. So now I'm going back to my basketball, and I'm going to start by using a Q-tip. I'm going to put the orange paint on the end of my Q-tip. I'm going to put a placemat down, and I'm going to start by making my dots. I'm going to go section by section, so I'm going to choose one first. I print my dots, making sure they're really close together, and I'm going to start by going around the lines. I will continue this until I think that it resembles the texture of a basketball. Now that I'm almost halfway done, do you think this looks like it has a texture of a basketball? Let's go ahead and compare it to an image of a basketball. Do you see how this basketball has raised dots on it? And here's a close-up of that texture. See how close the circles are? Okay, so I'm going to continue, and I might even want to experiment and see what it looks like if I use my finger. Maybe I want to use different materials. That's up to you and how you want to experiment with your artwork. Okay, I'm going to show you what it looks like with my orange marker. It looks a little different. Maybe I need to add a lot smaller dots closer together. And there's my paintbrush. I definitely think I like the Q-tip better, but you can decide what you want to use on your project. I love the way this basketball turned out. It looks so realistic, and I can keep adding more dots if I think it needs some. And last, we are going to make a soccer ball. The soccer ball is a little bit harder, so this could be used as an extension, or if you really feel like you can do it, go for it. Soccer balls have a pentagon shape and an octagon shape. We are going to make the pentagon shape. Now I need a black piece of paper, a circle, and something to write with. I'm going to start by folding my black paper in half. If you do not have black paper, you could use a white paper and color in your shape. I'm going to fold it in half again. So I have 4 even sections. And then I'm going to fold it in half again. So that means I'm going to have 8 folded sections. I'm going to fold them back up, and then I'm going to draw my pentagon shape. Starting with a straight line at the bottom, and then a triangle at the top. Kinda looks like a house. My triangles extend a little bit farther than the bottom line, and then I attach the sides. So if I count, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides, makes a pentagon. Now I'm going to cut out this shape. I'm going to cut on the outside of the white line, and I'm going to cut off all the edges of the paper. The papers should not be connected. And when I do that, it's like magic. I now have 8 pentagons. I'm going to start by laying out my pentagons on my circle that I cut out with my piece of paper and a plate. And I am going to glue the first one to the middle, but first I'm going to lay them out to make sure that they match up. All of my pointed lines of the shape should be pointing at another pointy line of the inside pentagon. This is just to help make my soccer ball look more like a soccer ball. You can make your pentagons in any pattern you want. I'm only using 6, so I'm going to save my other shapes for another lesson. Now I'm using a paintbrush for my glue because my glue top's not working, but you could use any glue you want. I just like painting on my glue because it helps to make an even surface of glue. Once I glue them down, I put them back into the spot that I decided for it to go in, and I continue gluing all of my black piece of papers to my white paper. Once my glue is dry, I'm going to start by connecting all of my point lines to the other shape point. So I'm going to continue this with my pencil, and then later on I can trace it with a Sharpie. I can look back at my soccer ball picture to make sure that I am creating my soccer ball to the best of my ability. Listen, it's okay if you make a mistake. The important part is that you are having fun. Okay, all-star artists, it's time for you to pick which you would like to do or make all of them. Have fun!